All right, today we are diving into a really classic folktale, a poem that's been passed down for generations. It's called A Legend of the Northland, and let me tell you, it's a story with a very sharp lesson at its core. So let's just get right into it. Have you ever actually stopped to think about that? I mean, why on earth do these birds spend their entire day just boring into hard, dry wood for the tiniest scrap of food? Well, according to this legend, there's a very specific and surprisingly human reason for it. So, our story comes from a place called the Northland. Picture it, it's so cold, the days are super short, and the nights are incredibly long. It's exactly the kind of place where you'd find families gathered around a warm fire, and, to pass those long, dark hours, they tell stories. And this is one of those stories. And our story kicks off, like so many great tales do, with a traveler knocking on a door. But listen, this isn't just any traveler, and this isn't just any door. This single moment, right here, is about to decide someone's fate forever. Okay, so let's meet our two main characters. On one side, you've got the good Saint Peter. He's been traveling, preaching, and he's just exhausted and faint with hunger. And on the other side, we have a little woman in her cozy cottage, literally surrounded by piles of freshly baked cakes. The stage is perfectly set for a simple little act of kindness. And St. Peter's request, as you can see, is just about as humble as it gets. He's not asking for a big meal, not even for her best cake. He just says, "Could I please have a single one from your huge pile of cakes?" It's a pretty straightforward test of compassion, right? So what do you think happens next? Well, this is where our story takes a pretty dramatic turn. Which should have been a very simple act of charity, it becomes this huge test of character. And let's just say it's a test our little woman is about to fail spectacularly. This is just wild. Look at the downward spiral of her greed. So first she tries to bake a small cake for him. But then she looks at it and thinks, no, that's too big to give away. So she makes an even smaller one. And guess what? That also looks too big. She finally ends up rolling a piece of dough as thin as a wafer, and unbelievably, she can't even bring herself to part with that tiny scrap. It's just a fascinating and kind of sad look at selfishness in action. In this quote right here, it takes us directly inside her head. It's really the perfect summary of a greedy heart, isn't it? The cakes that seem tiny when she's eating them herself suddenly feel way too generous to give to someone in need. Her selfishness just completely warps her perspective. So, St. Peter has been watching this whole performance. He's been patient, he's waited, but this incredible display of selfishness finally pushes him right over the edge. He's seen enough. The poem says her behavior was enough to provoke a saint. And that's key. It wasn't just that she said no once. It was the repeated, calculated selfishness that just laid her character bare. There was not a shred of generosity in her. And for that, there was going to be a consequence. And here it is, the curse. St. Peter basically tells her that she is far too selfish to enjoy the basic comforts of being human, things like a warm home, easy access to food, a fire. He's saying that she simply doesn't deserve the very things that she was so greedily hoarding for herself. And just like that, without another word, her transformation begins. The poem says she's drawn up through the chimney, leaving her human life, her warm little cottage, and all her precious cakes behind forever, emerging as something else entirely. She comes out as a woodpecker, doomed to live a life that is the exact, complete opposite of the one she just left. Instead of a bounty of cakes she didn't have to work for, she now has to work tirelessly, boring into hard, dry wood all day long just for the smallest bite of food. So what's the point of all this? I mean, every good legend has a lesson, and this one is just a masterclass in what we call poetic justice. The punishment isn't random at all. It is perfectly tailor-made to fit the crime of her selfishness. Okay, check this out. This chart illustrates the connection perfectly. Because she hoarded her warm cakes, she now has to struggle for scanty food. Because she selfishly guarded her warm home and fire, she's now doomed to live outside without a home at all. And the one thing she gets to keep from her human life, that little scarlet cap she was wearing, it stays on her head like a permanent, visible reminder of the selfish person she used to be. So, at the end of the day, what are we supposed to take away from this old Northland tale? Well, the lessons are pretty timeless. First off, selfishness ultimately leads to a harder life, not an easier one. Second, greed totally cuts you off from the warmth and comfort of being human. And maybe the biggest one of all, even a seemingly small action, like refusing to give away one little cake, can reveal who you truly are and have consequences that last a lifetime. So, this story uses a woodpecker as a powerful warning against greed. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the modern day fables that we tell our kids, or, even ourselves, to teach this very same lesson that a generous heart is worth so much more than anything you could ever hoard? It's definitely something to think about.